In the autumn of 2003, something remarkable was happening on a farm that many people had written off years earlier. Before the sun even rose above the horizon, pickup trucks were already lining the dirt road leading to the property. Buyers arrived from nearby towns. Some traveled from neighboring states. Everyone had come for the same reason. Chestnuts. Workers moved through long rows of mature trees, carrying baskets and sacks. The ground beneath the orchard was covered with fallen nuts. Every few minutes, another container was filled. By midday, trailers were packed with harvest. By evening, more buyers were still arriving. The farm was buzzing with activity. Yet what made the scene so unusual was not the harvest itself. It was the fact that 8 years earlier, almost everyone believed this farm was heading toward disaster. Back in 1995, the farm looked completely ordinary. Wide green pastures stretched across the landscape. Wooden fences divided grazing fields. Cattle moved slowly through the grass. This was cattle country. Nearly every farmer in the area raised livestock. It was the traditional way of life. Families had been doing it for generations. Nobody questioned it. Nobody imagined a different future. But one farmer did. The farmer had spent years raising cattle, just like everyone else. He worked long days. He repaired fences. He managed grazing land. He bought feed. He sold livestock. From the outside, everything looked normal. But inside, he was becoming increasingly concerned. Each year seemed more difficult than the last. Expenses kept growing. Feed costs climbed higher. Fuel prices increased. Machinery repairs became more expensive. Yet the profits never seemed to keep up. The farm survived, but survival was becoming harder every year. Many nights, after finishing his work, the farmer sat at his kitchen table, looking through records. He studied old notebooks filled with numbers. He compared one year to another. Again and again, he saw the same pattern. He was working just as hard as before. Sometimes harder, yet the rewards seemed smaller. The system that had supported generations of farmers was no longer providing the security it once had. Most people would have accepted the situation. They would have continued doing what they had always done. But the farmer began asking a simple question. What if there was another way? That question changed everything. He started reading agricultural reports. He visited libraries. He spoke with researchers. He studied alternative farming systems. Most ideas seemed impractical. Some required huge investments. Others carried enormous risks. But during his research, he discovered something unusual. Chestnut trees. At first, the idea sounded almost ridiculous. Very few people in his area knew anything about commercial chestnut production. Chestnuts were not a common crop. Most farmers focused on cattle, corn, soybeans, or hay. Yet the more he learned, the more interested he became. Chestnut trees could produce valuable harvests for decades. Once mature, they could generate income year after year. Demand was growing. Markets were expanding. And unlike annual crops, a successful orchard could continue producing for generations. The opportunity seemed real, but there was a problem. Actually, there were two problems. The first problem was time. The second problem was patience. Chestnut trees do not grow overnight. They do not produce large harvests after one season. They take years to mature. Years of work. Years of waiting. Years of uncertainty. Most people considered that a deal breaker. The farmer did not. After months of research, calculations, and planning, he made his decision. He would stop raising cattle, and he would plant chestnuts instead. When word spread through the community The reaction was immediate. People laughed. Some thought he was joking. Others believed he would change his mind. Many assumed he had made a terrible mistake. Why would anyone remove cattle from productive pasture? Why replace a proven business with trees? Why risk everything on a crop that could take nearly a decade to pay off?
The questions came from every direction.
Friends asked them, neighbors asked them. Even family members had doubts, but the farmer remained calm. He had studied the numbers, he had studied the land, and he believed in his plan. Soon, the transformation began. The cattle herd became smaller. One group of animals was sold, then another, then another. Gradually, the pastures emptied. The familiar sight of grazing cattle began to disappear. In their place came rows of young chestnut saplings, thousands of them. Each tree was tiny, a thin stem, a few leaves, a small root system. Nothing about them looked impressive. Nothing about them suggested future success. To passing drivers, it looked like the farmer had traded a functioning business for a field full of sticks. The laughter grew louder, but the planting continued. Day after day, the farmer worked across the property. He carefully planted each tree. He measured spacing. He monitored soil conditions. He installed protection around young saplings. Every tree represented a small piece of a future that only he could see. The first year passed. The orchard looked almost the same. The second year passed. The trees were slightly larger, but not much. The third year arrived. Still no major harvest. Still no proof. Still no reward. From the outside, the critics appeared correct. The cattle were gone. The income was gone. And the orchard seemed to be going nowhere. But appearances can be deceiving. Beneath the soil, the roots were expanding. Every season, they pushed deeper into the earth. Every season, they became stronger. The farmer understood something many people overlooked. The most important, growth often happens where nobody can see it. The fourth year brought new challenges. A period of dry weather stressed the young orchard. Some trees struggled. Others grew slowly. The farmer spent countless hours monitoring conditions. Every setback became another test of patience. Yet he refused to quit. The fifth year arrived. For the first time, the orchard began looking like a real orchard. The trees were taller. The branches spread wider. The landscape was changing. Wildlife returned to the property. Birds nested among the branches. Bees moved through the blossoms. The farm felt different, more alive. The soil changed too. Leaves fell and decomposed naturally. Organic matter increased. The ground held moisture longer. The land itself appeared healthier. Visitors started noticing, yet many skeptics remained unconvinced. Healthy trees were nice, but healthy trees were not prophets. At least not yet. The sixth year passed, then the seventh. The orchard continued growing. The farmer continued waiting. And the laughter continued as well. Some neighbors joked that the trees would never pay for themselves. Others suggested that he should return to cattle before it was too late, but the farmer stayed committed. He knew something they did not. Trees operate on a different timeline. Nature moves slowly, and success often moves slowly too. Then came 2003, the year everything changed. Spring arrived. The orchard exploded with blossoms. Everywhere the farmer looked, branches were covered with flowers. The display was unlike anything he had seen before. For the first time, the orchard seemed ready. As the months passed, chestnuts began forming across the trees. Not a few, not hundreds, thousands. Then tens of thousands. The branches became heavy with developing nuts. Even experienced growers would have been impressed. The signs were unmistakable. A massive harvest was coming. When autumn arrived, the prediction became reality. The orchard produced an extraordinary crop. Workers moved constantly through the rows collecting chestnuts. The harvest seemed endless. Every day produced more. Every week produced more. Buyers arrived from all over the region. Word spread quickly. The farmer who had been laughed at for 8 years as suddenly became the farmer everyone wanted to talk to. The same neighbors who once doubted him were now asking questions. How many trees did he plant? How long did it take? How much was the harvest worth? Could they do the same thing? The orchard had become impossible to ignore, but perhaps the most remarkable part of the story was not the harvest itself. It was what the harvest represented. The chestnuts were proof that long-term thinking can succeed. Proof that patience has value. Proof that a person does not always need to follow the crowd. For 8 years, the farmer endured criticism. For 8 years, he watched tiny trees grow while others laughed. For 8 years, there was little visible evidence that his plan would work. Yet he continued. One season at a time, 1 year at a time, one tree at a time, and eventually the results arrived. That is the lesson hidden inside this story. Most people judge a decision too early. They expect immediate rewards, immediate proof, immediate success. But nature teaches a different lesson. An oak tree does not become large in a year. A forest does not appear in a season, and a chestnut orchard does not become profitable overnight. Some of the greatest rewards require time. The farmer understood that. While others focused on the next month, he focused on the next decade. While others saw small saplings, he saw mature trees. While others saw risk, he saw possibility. And in 2003, the orchard finally revealed what he had seen all along. By then, nobody was laughing anymore. The cattle pasture was gone. The chestnut orchard remained. And the decision that once looked foolish had become one of the smartest decisions the farm had ever made. Sometimes success arrives quickly, but sometimes success grows quietly beneath the surface for years before anyone notices, just like a chestnut tree.